I didn't say a word when the HOA president started shouting at me. Her voice was cracking, her face turning red, and the little HOA lawyer beside her looked like he wanted to disappear. I just slid my phone across the table, tapped play, and leaned back in my chair. Her own voice filled the room clear as day. We'll just keep fining him until he gives up. People like him always do. That was the moment the power shifted. Not with yelling, not with threats. Just proof. But let me back up a little. When I first moved into this neighborhood, I wasn't looking for trouble. I was looking for quiet. My wife and I had just left the city after years of chaos. We found this peaceful, tree-lined subdivision that looked straight out of a postcard. The lawns were neat, the mailboxes all matched, and the HOA promised to preserve the beauty and order of the community. It sounded perfect. Our house sat on a corner lot with a little garden my wife loved tending. I fixed things around the place, waved to neighbors, and even showed up for my first HOA meeting to be involved. That was before I realized how these people really operated. The first notice showed up about a month after we moved in. A bright yellow slip taped to my garage door. Violation. Trash bins visible from the street. Fair enough, I moved them. Then came another, about the color of my mailbox. Then one about a crack in the driveway inconsistent with community standards. Each one came with a fine attached. At first, I thought it was just a misunderstanding, so I called the HOA office. A woman named Denise answered, with that sugary tone people use when they think they're better than you. You should really familiarize yourself with the handbook, she said. That was the first time I felt that creeping sense of being managed in my own home. I tried to do the right thing, sent polite emails, attached photos proving I'd fixed every issue, asked questions about the fines. No one replied. Then one day, I found another notice taped to my front door. Unauthorized landscaping modifications. They were talking about the tiny vegetable garden my wife had planted behind a waist-high lattice fence. I decided to walk down to the HOA president's house and clear things up. Her name was Marcia Holt, and she greeted me on her porch like I was there to sell her something. Marcia said, "I think there's been some kind of mistake. The garden's in the backyard, barely visible." She cut me off. Rules are rules, Mr. Carter. Maybe this isn't the right community for you. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about rules. It was about control. From then on, it was constant harassment, random inspections, fines for nonsense. One day, they even threatened to tow my car for being parked facing the wrong direction in my own driveway. It started to feel personal. Neighbors who used to wave stopped making eye contact. My wife got anxious every time we saw another letter in the mailbox. I tried again to talk to the board, but they just laughed me off at meetings. One guy even said, "If you don't like it, sue us." So I started reading. Nights and weekends, I dug into property law, HOA regulations, state codes. I found out in my state it's perfectly legal to record conversations if one party consents. So I started recording every call, every meeting, every casual chat on the sidewalk where they hinted I should just comply. I bought a tiny lapel recorder and wore it to HOA meetings. I logged everything: dates, times, quotes. Then I went deeper. I looked up public financial records. What I found didn't surprise me, but it sure disgusted me. The HOA had been paying tens of thousands of dollars to a landscaping company owned by Marcia's nephew. Another $9,000 a year for legal consulting from her husband's firm. The more I uncovered, the calmer I got, because I finally understood what I was up against. The final straw came when I got a certified letter saying the HOA intended to place a lien on my property for unpaid fines. That was over $3,000. Until almost all of them. Bogus. That night, my wife looked at me across the dinner table and said, "Are we going to lose the house?" Primera told her no. I promised her I'd handle it, and I meant it. Because by then, I had everything I needed. The HOA called for a special meeting to address what they called persistent violations and hostility. I showed up early, took a seat in the back, and just listened. Marcia stood at the front, all confident and polished. She started reading off a list of my supposed infractions: approved garden, mailbox, color, driveway, even aggressive tone in correspondence. The lawyer beside her nodded like a bobblehead. Then she said, We've been more than patient, Mr. Carter. This is your final warning before we initiate a lien. That's when I stood up. Calmly. Before you do that, I said, you might want to hear this. I set my phone on the table, pressed play, and let the room go silent. Marcia's own voice came out first. He's not even that bad, but we need to set an example or others will stop following rules. Then another clipper laughing about the maintenance fund and how her nephew was finally making some real money. You could hear the air get sucked out of the room. The lawyer looked like someone had unplugged him. A few neighbors started whispering. Then I pulled out the printed pages ID Brutofficial records from the state registry, showing the HOA's charter had expired over a year ago. They hadn't legally renewed, which meant every fine, every threat was invalid. When I said that, Marcia finally spoke. Her voice was trembling now. You recorded us. Yes, I said, because you stopped listening. And then I walked out. Within a week, Marcia resigned. For personal reasons. The treasurer followed. The HOA's lawyer withdrew representation. The county started investigating after multiple homeowners. Suddenly Brave came forward with their own complaints. Turns out, several had been fined illegally too. Within 2 months, the HOA was dissolved entirely. The neighborhood voted to replace it with a voluntary community council. No dues, no fines, just people talking like neighbors again. I didn't run for the new board. Didn't need to. I'd already done my part. Now, when I step outside, the street feels different. Quieter. Some neighbors wave again, though a few still avoid eye contact. That's fine. I'm not looking for friends. I'm looking for peace. Sometimes, I still scroll through the folder on my computer labeled HOA recordings. I don't do it out of spite. I do it as a reminder of how power gets abused when people think no one's watching. Marcia moved out a few months later. The rumor is she sold her house below market value to pay legal fees. I don't know. I don't care.